everybody, and welcome back to the second episode now of Off the Top. We're back like we never left, and here we go.
We've actually been like sitting here for the past how many hours are in a week?
A long time. So we haven't moved.
It'd be like over 300 to 200.
Well,
we have not moved.
You already heard him. He spoiled the surprise. Back again for another episode. Michael Weinberg. Michael,
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. I'm bittersweet because this is your last episode before you graduate.
That's true.
From college.
From UF.
From UF.
From the University of Florida.
And you move on to the other side.
Wait. Oh, that is true. That is what I said.
Yeah.
But that's not true. I'll still be on this side of the plane of existence.
You're not dying. You're just
I'm not dying, but it feels like I am.
Once you leave Gainesville and you come back, it does feel like you're entering into a different reality. Gainesville really does operate in its own microcosm and little universe.
Sitting right next to him, you just heard her voice, Ashley Novello. Ashley, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I love this. I love recording. I love being with everybody here. Yeah. So, the first episode, y'all killed it. Viewers out there, we have already, at the time that we're recording,
10 billion views.
Oh, baby, I hope.
Right now.
But right now, we have over 100 views, so a really good debut. Yeah, thanks everybody who tuned in and who liked and rated and all that. Really means a lot. Really a big thank you. We can't go anywhere unless somebody is listening.
Thanks to listeners like you. I don't know what else they say. I don't watch other podcasts or listen.
Well, you don't have to. We're Off the Top. This is the only podcast you ever have to listen to ever again.
Exactly.
Ashley, what do you do at the agency?
I am a data analyst. I'm relatively new. I started this semester, but I kind of just threw myself in and I kind of just analyze the data. It's really fun. There's a lot more to it. It's more research, but you get to deal with like a bunch of different client accounts. So I think it's a good time. I'm glad I joined.
You make analyzing data sound so fun.
It really is just a good time. I mean, it's fun if you like logic, but you also like creativity, but you're not, the artistic type. So data analytics is fun because you're able to creatively approach numbers in a way that you're able to answer the questions that you create. Like you look at data and you have to both create the question of how did that data point come to be, and then you create that question and you also answer it because you have to figure out like, well, how did it come to be and how can we get it either to improve, get that again, etc. And it's just like, it's a good time.
Okay. Off the Top is a podcast where students from the agency at UF discuss an eclectic set of topics, like grammar,
clearly,
for your and our entertainment and enrichment. Audio versions of this go up every other Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or you can watch the video version on YouTube, which goes up on the same day. If you like hearing us in your ear holes, please give high ratings, subscribe, share this around, share this with your friends. If you like what we're saying and you want to give your friend a little like tummy tickle with laughs, then share this with them. And then the good news of Off the Top spreads.
Do something different. Like send it, even if you're not even going to watch it.
Yeah.
Just like send ripples through reality. Just think about like all the branches that you could create in the timeline of our lives just by sending this video to your like granny or something and see what happens.
Yeah. I'll send my own grandma this podcast. She's not gonna understand a word of it.
Yeah.
But maybe
just send it to the void. Hopefully it just gets caught on.
Send it to a group chat of random aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
Post it in random Facebook groups.
Oh yeah. Do that.
Just drop it.
Yeah.
Just drop the page.
Just drop the link. No context.
I want to talk about BeReal. This new app that is taking our generation kind of by storm. Like it's spreading more and more every day, like exponentially. I hear more about this app and the downloads support it. I mean, every month since the beginning of the year, it's just been growing and growing and growing and growing in popularity and in downloads. And the thing about Fuck, Marry, Kill is that you only are presented 3 options, right? But really in the real world, you have limitless options. And what am I doing in the real world? I'm killing all of them. I'm killing Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I would, from a personal standpoint, I'm talking from a business standpoint, it's different. From brands social media, that is a really powerful platform to connect with your consumers. And then from a user standpoint, being able to connect with brands in a way that you've never been able to before, also really powerful. To have some more input, like an easier way to display your thoughts about a brand. I mean, really, before, if a brand wanted to know what somebody was thinking about their thing, then they'd have to conduct a bunch of focus groups, a bunch of really organized research. But now you just have a team of people doing social listening, and you put in the keywords, the topics, your brand, whatever, and you can see instantly what people are talking about. So my topic has a little bit less to do with that side of it, a little bit more with the personal side of it, which is the personal impact that social media has on people. And this is why I'm so interested in BeReal, because for those who do not know what BeReal is a new social media app, relatively new. It launched in 2020, founded by some people in France. And the premise of it is that you only post one thing a day, and you and all of your friends get a notification at some random time of the day to post something, and you have 2 minutes to post a picture. And the picture posts, it takes a picture from the front and the back camera so that it captures your entire surrounding. And that's in the name, BeReal. They want you to be as real as possible. There's no filters. There's no editing. Once you post the picture, you can take the picture multiple times, and you can post late. You don't have to post in the 2 minutes, but your post will have an indicator next to it that you posted late and that you did multiple takes. So they're all about being as authentic.
Huge screwed up sticker.
Yeah. You are branded with the scarlet letter.
Literally.
Sure, you can do it late, but we're gonna let you know.
We're gonna embarrass you for it.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna know you did it late. So this brings us a whole new dynamic here. There is no more. They have a discover page that I think kind of takes away a little bit from what they're doing. But the main page, your friends, all you see is, oh, by the way, you can't see what your friends post unless you already post for that day. So all you see really, the main page, is what you post and what your friends post. And that's it. And there's a limit. The limit is the amount of friends that you have. So if you're like me, who has their BeReal really curated to I have it so it's my 5 or 6 other friends from high school. My feed is only 6 posts long, and that's it. And once I see everything, then that's it for the day. I'm done. I comment on whatever they're talking about. We have a little bit of a conversation about what they posted, and that's it. That's all done until the next day. So there's no endlessly scrolling through. There's no I don't know how their Discover algorithm works, but on your main page, there's no algorithm that's showing you different things. They don't allow ads. There's no advertising at all. There's no promotional content. It's really not, they state.
How are they making money?
I was
I don't know.
just about to ask that and be what's the catch? How are they monetizing this?
I want to talk about that a little bit later after I get your guys' initial take on this. So yeah, well, I'll just get your takes right now. I know, Michael, that you downloaded it
just downloaded
today.
it.
I don't know what your experience is with it, Ashley, but
my experience was you two taking a BeReal right before this, and I'm like,
right, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be real for a second.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea because I really don't like social media that much. This podcast is the first time I've ever been relatively on the front of the camera, which is interesting, and it's a microphone right now. But I'm not someone who likes the whole social media aspect of social media. I like the social aspect of it, but I don't like the branded aspect of having an Instagram or a public account. Even though mine's on private still, your Instagram's almost like a casual LinkedIn, especially in if you're in a creative field at all. And so I kind of it's almost, BeReal reminds me of what Snap would be if it didn't have stories, but not but you only could post one story and you had to just do it right then and there, and you didn't have 300 friends that you've had since high school.
It's a really limiting Snapchat.
Yeah, because that's why I like Snap, because I like the ability to just quickly send a moment. but that moment, but I don't put all those moments on my Snapchat story. And then if I do put, and then if you have a close friend story, it's still like, I find BeReal to be kind of similar to like the close friends on Snap, but still the BeReal seems more authentic because of the nature of the app. Like you have to just, you post whatever in that 2 minutes or whatever. And like it takes, and I think it's interesting that it takes pictures on both sides of the camera. Because to me, I know the one that shows my face, if I'm trying to take the other side, would just be so ugly. Like, I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to see that, like, the accidental, oh my gosh, like my face. But that also would be really funny if it's just like a few of your friends. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of think I'm gonna download the app. I think you've convinced me. I think you should be an influencer for BeReal and be the opposite of real with it.
Well, I'm not trying to advertise BeReal. I'm just saying my thought. But yeah,
no, it's cool though.
It is cool. For now, Michael, what do you think of this?
Well, I feel like how new is this? Because I feel like I've heard of BeReal once before.
So it launched in 2020. It launched in France, and then over time it's moved more. I think the only time zones, because everybody gets a notification at the same time. So like there's like time zones that they deal with. I think it's only available for like European and North American time zones.
Okay, yeah. So I've definitely heard it before, but I'm not like super informed on new social media platforms that like pop up. But yesterday or a couple days ago, my friend was using it and I was like, what is that? And she told me about it and I was like, okay, this is actually really, really cool. But my first concern about it is like unfortunately, with the way that people consume media, people get bored so quick. Like, I'm surprised that Wordle has lasted as long as it did. Like, I know that's not a social media thing, but, like, it's the same thing, every single day. And I'm surprised that it's lasting. But I don't know if that's because, it's a different experience every time and it's kind of competitive. So in that case, it is kind of different every day. But BeReal, to me, like, it's really cool, and I think I would like continue using it. Like, but I don't know if people are going to continue to enjoy the same exact experience. Like, from Anthony, what you were describing, it sounds like it's very limiting. Like, and that's the point. And I like that aspect of it. And like, it's interesting because it seems like they're capitalizing on this newer take on social media. Kind of like Ashley, like how you're talking about it. Like, I feel like people don't like social media anymore because of how fake it's gotten. Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, let's make a social media that like capitalizes on that exact, or not capitalizes, because I still don't know how they're making money. Well, if you want to get to that, but I just think it's a really cool concept. I just don't know how they're going to expand it, because every type of thing expands these days. It somehow has to evolve.
I feel like in order to really enjoy it in a longer term, more than just like a few days, you'd have to make a group effort with your friends, like whomever you would want to be like on your following list, what you would want to see. You'd have you guys would all have to get together and be like, okay, like let's follow each other, and like let's make sure we're consistent with it, because if there's a group of 5 of you and only 2 like really keep consistent with it, then it's just you're just fought like that one post, that's it for the day. Like there needs to be like a reason or a motivation to open the app besides just that one notification. But I think if you had like Anthony and his friends, like they all do it and they post and that's it, and like that'd be a really cool way to keep in contact with people you don't get to see a lot of times, because it's like that quick digestible, like here's my day, and sometimes that's all you need. Like that's why I don't have it anymore, but I used to use my close friends story a lot to keep my friends who weren't in Gainesville with me updated on just kind of the weird day-to-day of my life, because I can't talk to everybody all day. But I also there's also just little random moments that I don't bring up to my friend that I haven't seen in 3 months, but sometimes it's fun for them to have that quick peek into just something random that happened, but it's also like a fun moment. And so I think BeReal, I think there's a lot of opportunity for it. Like I could see myself really enjoying it. I would just need a group of my friends or like people that I know to use it too. Like I feel like it wouldn't be an app that you could just download and get into organically without like other people that there being a vested interest.
It's like a truly social media. Like that one would have to require.
Yeah, like I feel like it actually is a social media And we just don't even know what like an actual social media would be nowadays because our social media has become not social.
It's so commercial. Yeah. And that's, I mean, you touch on something there that this isn't the first time that something like this has been attempted. I mean, Facebook was the first major, well, before that was MySpace. But I mean, every social media came out with the prospect of connect with your friends and your family and be real. This is authentic. You know, one of the things that Facebook sold itself on was you're connecting with people with real names, not online pseudonyms.
Yeah.
You know, not fake stuff. And then over time, it became a lot more commercialized because their money making model was running off of ads, and it grew and grew and grew into something else that is, I mean, how we talked before earlier. We would want to kill it, get rid of the brand because we feel like it doesn't serve what we want anymore. Instagram, Snapchat was one of the ones that introduced the disappearing story, right? Where anything you post disappears immediately. So it's like, okay, yeah, be more authentic, be yourself. It's going to go away either way. So don't worry about it. Have the close friends or whatever. But what happened? Same thing happened. Same thing where it became more commercialized. Now there are Snapchat influencers. There are Snapchat shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
That are incredibly well directed.
I was gonna say I so watch the stuff.
You're invested.
Snapchat's become it's become something completely different than it used to be when I made it in 2012.
Yeah, and like they keep putting like the bandage over this with the close friends feature because Instagram has this now as well, where you can designate people to be close friends, but really that's just a bandage over the kind of issue that you're making. So it's like, oh yeah, we're really social, but not anymore. But no, now we're really social again. But that doesn't change the fact that to get to your close friends, you still have to sift through all the shit on the app, all the promoted stories and all of the things that you don't normally want to see to get to your close friends. You know, if you think about the customer journey on when you open Snapchat. Once you open Snapchat, the first thing you see is a take the picture thing. Great. But to get to your stories and things like that, you have to swipe over to that page, that screen, and you still see everything. The biggest things on there are what? The promoted stories, the ads. You get ads in between all your stories as well.
Yeah, like your story, even if it's just on that main page, your stories are literally like a sixth of the actual screen.
Yeah, that's
like the rest of the screen is all of their content, and it's just become a media platform more than a social network.
Exactly. Yeah, it's perfectly said. It's a media platform. It's another channel on your TV, essentially. Or like, okay, well, I'm tired of seeing the Facebook channel. Let's go over to the Instagram channel and see what's going on over here.
They're essentially like becoming the same type of social media. Like I'm noticing that, like, I mean, Twitter even tried it out with their fleets. I don't know if you guys.
What was that?
Those were stories on Twitter, and it was like
that go away.
Yeah, people reacted so poorly to it that they actually got rid of the feature.
Doesn't Facebook have stories as
well?
Yeah, Facebook has stories.
Instagram has stories. Snapchat has stories, and it's like they're essentially becoming the same type of platform, like all just like with different branding, and it's kind of like weird because like people use them for like complete, like there's no difference between, like I could use Instagram like Snapchat. I totally could. With the stories, I could send a picture or a video to somebody right in the app. Like I don't even need to like make it first and then send it. Like I can make it in app, and it's like, and it will disappear or stay there just the same way Snapchat does. I could DM. Same thing with Facebook. It's just like I don't really see the difference in these. Like I honestly, you could use Facebook like Twitter. There's just a lot of junk as well.
Like I don't see objectively I don't see the difference, but then when I actually think about myself, I use these apps so differently. Like even like it's so embarrassing to say, but like on I won't post the same thing on my Snapchat story that I will on my Instagram.
Right.
Like I think about it differently. Like I don't know why, but I view my Snapchat so much more casually.
Well, because at one point they were different. You know, you didn't have stories on Instagram.
But even now, like I won't put like the things that I'll post my Snapchat story, I wouldn't cross post on my Instagram and vice versa. And there's not really like a thought, and it's hard to articulate what the baseline is for making my Instagram story versus my Snap. But I think in general, like they're all kind of the same functionality, but it just, the way people use them, I think just depends on like how your group around you uses it, like your social.
Yeah.
So like if you're like, especially art, like we grew up with like Snap. I mean, I've had it since 2012 before stories. So like Snap to me was casual, and then the stories came along. And I remember when stories were first introduced to Snap, I remember thinking, what am I going to post on here? Like, what would I post? What does everybody need to see that I can't just send to my friends? Now I think about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, people put so much effort into thinking about what they should post on their stories. And it's just crazy how like 10 years can do that. And like, there's such a shift in what was like in the intention of the app. And then once money got involved in like popularity, then it was like, it completely shifted. And so, especially go back to BeReal, I'm very curious to see, one, how they right now like currently make money, if they do, and two, if they have like a growth, like if they do plan to grow, how they may or may not be influenced by money and like commercialization.
The sustainability of BeReal is my greatest concern. So far, they've had one round of funding. They raised $30 million in Series A funding so far, and I haven't been able to find any like news or anything about their future growth. If they plan on adding ads or subscriptions or something else in the future, or any future series of funding. With that $30 million, I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, I was curious.
Actually, okay, well, there's some names on here.
Like
but
venture capitalists.
Yeah.
Stuff
But like, what are they
So
investing?
so they're investing. So they're in
Like, if they're not making money, what are they investing?
They're
for?
expecting some sort of return. They're expecting some sort of return somehow, right? My hope is that they follow the Signal model. You guys ever heard of Signal? No. No. So Signal is this messaging app that is end-to-end encrypted, like how Telegram.
I was gonna say, it's like Telegram.
Like Telegram and how WhatsApp are advertised as, but Signal is, I think, the only one that has like their code out. Like it's not open source, but their code is available for anybody to see, and so you can legitimately 100% see, no, this is 100% end-to-end encrypted. Like they can't see your messages at all. And I use that to DM with my friends because like my that same group of high school friends, because I mean I don't trust shit, I don't trust any of these other things. And the way that they run completely off of like donations. So is that seeing the $30 million that's been invested in BeReal, I doubt that they would turn to a model that's just donation based, but really I can't see. I'm not smart enough, nor have I had the time to think about the kinds of things, the growth track that they can go on that would keep them in this same niche of like not keeping you in, because that's the way that social media makes money. By keeping you in, by drawing you in and keeping you in, so that you get exposed to as much content and ad as possible. So what they're gonna do in the future, I don't know, but I really hope that they don't fall down the same trap that every other one has. Because
it's like, it's a good, it seems so good, like through
too good to be true.
Like through rose-colored like lenses and stuff, I'm like, wow, I love the idea of this. But like, there's something, especially being in advertising, there's something that I've always thought about, where it's like, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And I always think about that when I do anything now, especially when I started to look at social media and like Google as a service. Like, it's crazy to me how growing up with just like, oh, just Google it. And we just think like we're just given all this information for free, when in reality, it's just data. And that's how Google makes a lot of money, obviously ads, but data. And so I think about BeReal, I'm like, I wonder if they're like, if it's data, if it's like what these $30 million are seeing they're going to get. Yeah. Like somehow to invest $30 million, they feel like they're going to get more than $30 million back. I mean, that's why they would invest it. Because I don't think people who have millions of dollars are investing out of the good faith of their hearts into authentic social media and connection. But I think if whoever created the app hopefully had decent intentions of like what they for why they made it. I mean, it
always starts that way.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to relatively reinvent the wheel when it comes to like social media. Like the big players they're not going anywhere. Like you're not Instagram's not going anywhere anytime soon. Like Facebook and Twitter, like they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So I mean, to try and make a new social media app is a huge undertaking. And so I feel like if they made the app, they had to have done it with like a passion of like decent intentions, especially to try and enter into such a competitive market. But ultimately, like these social media giants, they make so much money that in order to even like get in front of users, you have to have money. And like, it's just, I'm so hopeful. Like the optimistic side of me is like, I hope this just stays pure and authentic forever. But you never know. I mean, money can really corrupt pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
Any well-intentioned company.
I'm like really trying hard to see like how it could stay relevant, you know, because like obviously I just personally don't think people will enjoy this, you know, by next year. You know, I feel like one, they'll like turn to video, like maybe like a short video of like what you're doing. And then I'm just like, obviously this is kind of a joke. But, like imagine it's just like constantly on. Like you could just like live stream.
Live stream all day.
Live stream BeReal
all day, and you can like come in whenever you want just to see what people are doing. And obviously that's creepy as hell, and I'm kidding, but who knows what they're actually intending to expand to. I think
I disagree with, you know, in the vacuum, like not thinking about like their growth, like their financial growth and stuff like that, but just from a user standpoint, I think it is sustainable, like in keeping people, because I think it's popular for a reason. I think there's a cultural shift with our generation going on, that we are tired of the intrusiveness of the media platforms that have been around for our entire lives. You know, there's more of I'm seeing that there's more of a trend towards self-care and wanting to be productive and have, you know, a stable mental health. And one of the things that unfortunately works against that is social media addiction. You know, the perfection of every shot, and really it's so bad because we were told one thing about it and it's really something else. We were told this is your chance to be authentic on Instagram, but it's really not. It's a media platform, and people on media platforms are not 100% authentic. Like that's not really what the main point of it is anymore. So the same way that Wordle caught on, where it's like, oh, you do the one thing and then it's satisfying, that's done, that's it. Then I think BeReal is occupying that same niche next to Wordle. I think Wordle opened the door to simplicity, once a day, digestible, and that's it. Like, we're not going to waste your time here. You're going to do what you want to do here and then get out, you know, go enjoy your life. I think that's something that's appealing more and more to people like us.
Like, I think there's a craving for going back, because I mean, all of this is still relatively, like, social media itself is still a relatively new thing in our lives. Like, we weren't born with social media, you know what I mean? It was like we grew up around it because it was starting around that. But like when we first started using it, it wasn't that such a huge media platform, and then it became that, and now we're all kind of trying to deal with this like relatively like addiction to social media. And we want to still be connected with people. Like I find myself wanting to delete all these apps, but then I find myself re-downloading them because it's kind of the only way our society is like relatively connected. And I think something like BeReal is sustainable in a sense where if there's enough people who desire to get away from the current ecosystem and it will fill a need of like authenticity. I think if you have enough people who are into it, it would be sustainable because it would probably become a habit. Like in terms of the reason like social media is so addicting now is because it constantly like fills like that like dopamine, and we get that cue, either the notification or you guys have seen The Social Dilemma.
I haven't seen it, but I
won't get into it, but it's similar to this, but it's similar to like it shows you how you're so cute, like you're so trained to where you get a notification and you open the app, you're just addicted to scrolling and stuff. And it's that cue and then the habit and the reward. Like it's that habit cycle and loop.
And I was just thinking about the other day, I was like, wow, you know, Twitter used to not be such a like, I heard somebody like say it's like a free slot machine for people with ADHD or something like that.
No, it really is.
But like when I had first gotten it, like in 2014, that's when I first got on Twitter. You know, I was like beginning high school, and like I wanted to see content. Like I wanted to see a lot of content, and like I would keep refreshing and nothing would pop up. And I'd be up. I don't even remember if I was up like late or if it was just like 11 o'clock, you know, like, you know, that's not even late to us anymore. But I would scroll and like pull down and the arrow would like load. And then, you know, nothing would pop up. Now, every single time that I pull down, there's like
especially Twitter
100 tweets. Yeah.
I almost feel like I can't get through all of the tweets before there's a new
and
set.
then there's like now tweets that you've never you would never see on your timeline because they're showing you what your friends liked and they're showing you what you might like because there's like these topics now. And unfortunately, that's like what's keeping me on Twitter. Like it's just like endless content, and I just like I'm seeing it and I'm like not giving it. It's like TikTok as well. TikTok is very, very much
and
like
that app is designed.
Yeah,
like,
there's
manufactured to do that.
I'm
There's
so
no
glad
gaps.
I'm so glad I'm not on TikTok.
I am
Like,
too.
that
I'm
is
really
the-
glad.
I enjoy it. I defend TikTok as like the same way that I think people had their opinions about YouTube, and even going back to TV when that first started. I mean, people have their opinions about TV today.
Right.
But when like I just remember there's this one movie I saw in one of my film classes called Good Morning. It's a Japanese film from like 1950 or something like that. And the little boys wanted a TV, so they were like asking their dad for it. And the dad's like, like TVs have created like we'll create like 10 million idiots in Japan or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. Like it's clearly like it feels like that, but I don't think the creation of different types of media is like making people idiotic. I think like it's just every generation has their new, like, I don't know. I just think like without TV, we wouldn't have the dissemination of news in the same way. Without social media in general, you know, like a lot of great things have happened because of social media. Yeah. A lot of people are like learning like incredible things on TikTok as well. Now, albeit it's like a lot of shit as well.
Yeah, so, I think like I mentioned earlier, the main issue I think with social media and why a lot of people our age and then just in general feel disenfranchised with it is because we were told that it's one thing, but it's actually something else. Their main focus, because that's how they make money, is promotion and creating influencers and creating brands. That is the way that if you're going to use social media, that is the way that you should interface with it and think about it when you use it. Because if you're going in there thinking that this is your chance to be authentic and to connect with friends, then sorry, but that's secondary to what is really happening there. Like connecting you with your friends is a vehicle for showing you more stuff. Yeah, a lot of things has happened, but besides that, yeah, a lot of good has happened with social media. And like how we started this conversation from the branding perspective, from the company perspective and research, it's really useful for a consumer and a brand to be able to have that place where you can interface and learn more about each other. That's great. But as the kind of platform that they think that it is, that's not that. And I think there's like a dissonance there with how things are talked about and how they're treated. The reason I'm not on TikTok is because a lot of people are learning great things on TikTok or just learning things in general. I'm not on there, so I don't know what kinds of things you guys are learning. But to me,
I don't learn much. I'm not one of them. I'm just saying.
To me, I think the distinction that I would put between TikTok and then YouTube and TV and other things is that there's like that limit of how long it can be. And so to me, when I think about something meaningful, like it's really hard to make something meaningful when something is that short. That's why I love podcasts so much, because podcasts, you go long, and when you have to have a really meaningful conversation and meaningful content to keep somebody around for this long. We've been going for a long time right now, but we've gotten to this point in conversation where we're thinking deeply about social media and whatnot. Like you can't get something like this on something that's so short form and bite sized, like not just TikTok, but like a story or something like that. And so to me, that's like, oh, that's like just outwardly designed to create this funnel to just keep you coming in. Like when every time I finish a Twitter binge, I don't feel like I'm much better for it.
No, I never. I always feel like awful. I feel worse.
Yeah.
And even
is
when I'm
true.
in my binges, I'll think about it like, oh my god, I hate that how long I'm spending on this, but I almost can't. I'm glued. Like gravity has become a lot heavier, and I am stuck on here. And
You're lethargic. It's like you're lethargic. It almost
I
like
hate it.
it's like when you eat too much food is how I feel. Like you so much junk that was just ingested. But so to wrap up this topic, what do you guys think about the longevity of BeReal, and where do you think this is going to go?
I think if BeReal itself is an app, whatever happens to that, I think the concept of authenticity on social media and the desire for it is like not going to go away. Like I think more, especially as more and more people become aware of how much their screen time is affecting their life, and especially I know my screen time is very much tied to social media. Once I've started to realize that, I've tried to take steps to get away from like those apps and find different apps that might substitute. And I think if you have a group of friends that are all kind of on that same wave, and you all are like, I want to keep connecting with you socially, but I don't necessarily want to feel like I have to, if I open Snapchat to talk to you, that I'm stuck on there, then maybe there is like a future and a longevity to something like a platform like that, a platform for authenticity. Maybe it's even just like, maybe if they made it, you have to pay for it, which I know sounds awful, but if you pay for the app, maybe it can ensure that it isn't going to be corrupted by like promotion and monetization. But I don't know. But I do think, to sum up my thought, yes, I think BeReal could be sustainable and have some longevity if enough people get behind it and like groups of people make it a habit to keep using it.
I don't like to be pessimistic, but I just like I can see it where like at least with my friends, like I can already hear them saying like, oh, you still use BeReal? Like I can already hear that. And quite honestly, and maybe it's just because it's like my experience, like seeing it, like I love the concept. I think it's great. And I think it like plays really well into everything that we talked about. Like, it's just that I think, I don't know. It just seems too simple and like too, like, yes, there's, I love the concept of being like like, okay, this is a weird analogy and it only makes sense if you've seen it. Have you guys watched Pirates of the Caribbean at all?
Yes.
I was scared of the villain when I was younger, so I really haven't actually watched them.
Okay, well, in one of the movies, I forget now which one it is. I think it's the second one. There's like some kind of like goddess, like witch lady or whatever, and she throws a bunch of like seashells on the table, and it's like random, like the seashells fall on the table, but then like the transition of the camera shows that it's like it makes up like an island, like a group of islands that kind of like look like where they fell on the table. And like that's how I love to live life, like see what does the world give me and then work around it. So in a way, BeReal is kind of like that. Like you don't really get a chance to create so much as like work with what you've got. So I think in that sense it's like the perfect app for me. But I don't know, maybe I'm just corrupted by like the endless scrolling. Mm-hmm. That like, trust, I have tried to escape that as well with the time limits and all that. And I still have like hour and a half time limits across all my social media, and like I generally respect it. Like if it says, hey, like please get the hell off of your...
Not 5 more minutes or like please one more minute.
Like, and like that's the problem is like I'll see so many people. I see so many of my friends with the little like hourglass pop up and they're like boop boop boop, and I'm like, what's the point? So like that's the hold it has on us. But I don't know if like BeReal is the way I see it, and the reason I think it's like not sustainable is because we already have so many other social media platforms that I think that this is now just another one on top of it, unless you're kind of like you guys, where you guys don't have, like you guys have Twitter, but like neither of you said you have TikTok, for example. Mm-hmm. So like maybe it could work for like that section of the population, but somebody like me who uses like all the social media, like I don't know that adding another one, as great and like authentic and like refreshing as it is, I don't know if that's like enough to like keep me on there, and like because it's just like once a day, and it's like, oh, it's not my fix, Like it doesn't. I don't know what the word is.
I feel like
doesn't
most
quench
social
the
media
thirst.
apps are like complementary products, like in terms of like marketing and advertising, like just to for us students, like Snapchat and Instagram, like they directly compete with each other, but like they're complementary. Like if you have one, you pretty much have the other.
Right.
But I feel like BeReal is like a substitute product. Like if you want, like I feel it's such a different type of social media, and it's not the same as like that habit of like it wants you just keep scrolling, that endless scroll. Like it has a fundamentally different. It's a fundamentally different platform. So therefore, I feel like it's a substitute. So it's like if you're the person who's going to download BeReal, it's probably because you want to take steps away from the other social media apps.
But I feel like it's such a big step. Like you're going from like every 15 minutes checking your social media to now once a day.
Which I need that because I need to get myself off of my social media.
Yeah, but like the question is like, will people do it?
True, yeah.
So like that's just I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just like thinking about like me, like how I would do it, and I know that if I'm thinking it, there's at least a good amount of people who think that way too. I'm not that original. I've been on. You guys are not on TikTok, but let me tell you, I think I have a funny joke that I think is like super niche. I go through the maybe like 17,000 comments, and I already see it said maybe 3 or 4 times.
So it sounds like getting off social media and moving to something else. Kind of a motivation issue.
Uh-oh. Segue.
Perfect segue.
How did you do that?
That was really remarkable.
That was...
I practice. Michael, your topic is about motivation. So please set the table. What do you want to talk with regards to motivation?
Sure. So my topic is about like internal motivation, because I feel like I'm definitely not nowhere near perfect with it, but I feel like I have a lot of good like internal drive to do something that I want to do. But more so it's just like, for example, and I know like a lot of people are very good at waking up early, going to the gym and all that stuff. I'm not necessarily good at going to the gym, but like I feel like, for example, when I wanted to get off of social media, and I set like limits for myself, I was following that very, very well for like last semester, like, and during during quarantine when I was at home, like I put those limits and I did it very well. Like there's just like a lot of things that I will myself to do from somewhere inside me, and like I don't think I can teach so much as just say like, hey, this is what I do, and like it might work for you. Like, for example, if I want to wake up early, there's times like I'll go to bed at like 3 a.m. and like if I want to wake up early to enjoy the rest of my day, I will get up at 8. I'll get up at 8 and I'll like put on my music. One thing I was talking about today, a way for me to actually get my day started is like I'll wake up and like the first song that comes to my head, I'll just like play that song, and like for whatever reason my brain gave me that song, and I'm gonna go off of that, and then that's all like I don't have like a playlist for getting up in the morning. I just have my 4,000 songs in my library, and I hit shuffle if I don't have anything, or I'll click the one song that I am thinking of and then shuffle from there. So music is a good one for me. Also just like literally ripping the covers off
I do
of
that
me.
too. I have to like
like
a dramatic
you have to like act like you're looking forward to something. Like like I think about people who don't have anything to do, and that's like, I don't know, you have to have some kind of goal. You have to have a goal. You have to like talk about your goals. So hold yourself accountable by the people around you. If you tell somebody like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this today, like now there's like some kind of stakes to it. It's like it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Now somebody knows that I'm supposed to be doing that, and even though it's so slight, if you say, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym today, well, it's like you're telling somebody, and now you feel like you have to like, and it's kind of toxic, but in a good way. It's like, and I have to impress them. I have to go to the gym because I told them I was going to go to the gym. But like on a grander scale, like if you say you're going to apply to a job or something, or, you're going to have to deal with all the questions like, well, why didn't you apply if you didn't? Like that's how you kind of have to like set these points. If you imagine a timeline, you gotta set these points to like work towards, and then you kind of do everything in your power to get to that point. And like setting goals is difficult. It's not like, obviously, like there's like whole seminars and like
on
crash
just
courses.
setting goals, smart goals.
So I was literally just thinking smart goals.
But it's just like, it boils down to just, what do you want? Like what do you want in that moment? Like literally, what is it that you want? And if you're even concerned about internal motivation or like motivation in general, that means you want something, because you want to be motivated to do that thing. So I think it's just like focusing on what do you want immediately, and then like inching yourself forward from there. But like, I want to know, how do you guys get yourselves motivated if you don't struggle with that?
Yeah, this is a big topic for me. This because ever since starting college, being productive has been more important than ever. And every subsequent semester, as I move forward in my classes and take on more responsibilities in other organizations, like for example, the agency, getting more things done has become more important than ever. Whereas like in high school, it was like, yeah, I was really involved at school as well, but not the kind of stuff that we did there was not anywhere near to the extent that college goes. So I could afford to, slack around and not do anything and just get lost in some social media and YouTube or a video game or whatever. But now it's kind of with that accountability thing that you were talking about, where loading up on a bunch more things that I want to do and achieve, that in itself kicked my butt into gear. Like, okay, I need to figure this out. Because the way I've been living is not sustainable. Some of the things that I've come across, and like, we're all on our own journey, trying to be the best that we can be. Just getting some of the things that help me personally, and I wouldn't push this on anybody, is getting closer to my faith. I'm a Christian, so getting closer to my God and placing my faith in something beyond myself has really helped me do that. And I think you can also do that in a secular sense with this phrase that I've seen in other places, which is just fuck your motivation. There's like a segment of that on YouTube and on the internet where it's like, fuck your motivation. Because if you, the way that what they argue is that if you continue to depend on motivation to get something done, well, there's times that you're not feeling motivated to do anything, even though you have to get something done. I love podcasting, and I love doing this podcast, and I love doing everything that I do at the agency. Sometimes I don't feel very motivated to like prepare for an episode or to write some social media post, but it has to get done. So fuck my motivation. I can't rely on that. So just do it. It's really, it's simple, but it's deceptively simple. But the idea is, I think, putting your eggs in a basket that is not dependent on your own feelings. Because if you rely on your feelings that fluctuate depending on outside forces, then you're going to be somebody that can't be consistent in getting things done. So that's kind of the mindset that I've adopted over the past year. That's
such an interesting way to look at it, because I'm someone who I've always been very independent, whereas like I feel like if I have the ability to do it on my own, I need to do everything I can to do it on my own, and I don't like to rely on other people. And it sometimes gets into like a relatively toxic sense where I don't rely on other people for even things that I know I can need help on. But I think in terms of like in staying motivated, like I've found that I go through periods where I get really obsessed with things and then I lose interest really quick, and it's fine. But the problem is that quick obsession, if I end up like committing myself to that and then I lose my motivation for it, but I am now committed to it in terms of like either a job or a position or something, I have to almost artificially like create that motivation. And it's interesting to hear you say just like fuck your motivation and like just do it, because a lot of times like it's so much easier said than done to just do it. Because if you're not, for me it's like if I want to sit and go to the library, like if I know I have to get something done and I know I have to go to the library, but I'm so comfortable on my couch and I know I don't, and it doesn't need to get done today, but it could be done today. It's like it's almost impossible for me to like motivate myself unless I literally am telling myself like, Ashley, get up and go. Ashley, it's time to go. You need to do this. Because if I'm not physically like kicking myself to do something, especially if I'm not like just jazzed about it, I almost like can't get myself to do it. Like I have to like almost be my coach in life, because if I don't, and I think this like, and it's like embarrassing to say, but I feel like I'll get complacent. And I hate complacency. But sometimes I notice when I get to that point where I'm complacent, like, oh, you know, like my project's, it's due in 2 weeks. I could get it done now, so I'm not, you know, stressed in a few weeks, but like I'm really lazy and I'm complacent where I am right now, and like I can just do it. Like for me, I feel like I always want to be better than I am and do more, but I've become, if I'm not directly motivated to do it, then I just kind of get upset with myself, and I'm like, I should feel bad. I should feel more motivated to do this. And there's like, I want to do it well, but I don't actually want to do it. And so I have to like, I have to kick myself to do it. And then I just feel like I'm not satisfied in that pursuit, if that makes any sense.
That's where the throwing your covers off thing comes, right?
Yeah.
Where like throwing your covers, it's funny. Sometimes what I do is I scream, I yell.
Really?
Like, yeah, I like yell, and like if I'm in bed and I'm like my alarm's going off and I really don't want to get up because my bed's so cozy, I'll just get something out of me.
Love that.
I definitely talk to myself though, because I live alone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's definitely interesting because everything I do is truly up to me. Like I don't have roommates who are like, oh, let's go do something, or hey, you should get off the couch, or hey, like you haven't, like I kind of getting up, especially in college, I've found it's really, especially when you don't have like, especially UF, like a lot of times, and with COVID, we don't have in-person classes all the time. So when you don't have a set schedule, it's almost hard to make one for yourself when you don't have real responsibilities, like a real job. Like college is kind of like practice world.
It's Wanna-Do City.
Yeah, if you're able to, if that's like,
we're playing house here.
Yeah, like I wake up and I'm like
it's
I don't
life
have to.
light.
Yeah, like if I don't have class in the morning, yeah,
Literally.
like if I don't have class in the morning, I could just wake up at 9, and then I'm so sleepy, I could just keep sleeping, and then like there's no repercussions for like if I don't keep myself on track a lot of the times, and that's what I've noticed is hard. Like I can set deadlines for myself. Like I can make goals. Like I can sit at the library and write out my to-do list for what I want to do for the day. But there's nothing that actually keeps me accountable for like making sure that stuff's done, because it's not a real job. You know what I mean? It's just you're making that for yourself, and you have to keep yourself motivated. But I mean, if I just want to lay in bed and sleep for another hour, like there's really nothing that keeps you up. But ultimately it leads back into like habits. And like for me, like I don't know if you guys ever read the book The Power of Habit, but it like changed my life, because it's about basically learning how habits are formed in terms of like this, like your brain, learning how they're formed, and then kind of being able to control them and like create them to benefit you. And I'm not great at it still, but it's once you realize like that cue, which is like what leads you into that bad habit. Like for me, the bad habit is like snoozing. Like I'm like once I'm up, like once I'm literally vertical, I can't go back to bed. But it's getting myself like out of bed, like from horizontal to vertical. That's the hard part. So like sometimes literally, even if it's like chugging water before I go to sleep, that way like wake up, like I have to use the bathroom when I get up. I can't just keep sleeping. I have to get up. It's like once I'm up, I'm fine. But it's like I've realized, oh, it's having that snooze button there. It's having my phone so close to me. So like even changing up the cue where it's like I charge my phone away from the bed to where it's like I'm changing the cue, so the habit isn't I have to snooze it. It's that I'm getting up to go do the phone. Then eventually the more you do that, you're training your brain to like associate hearing the alarm with getting up rather than pressing snooze. And so that's kind of how I've tried to get myself more motivated internally, is by physically changing my response to certain like stimuli, because otherwise I live alone and my house is super comfortable. So like it's so easy for me to just be like, nah, I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have to. And like if it's not pressing, then I don't need to do it. Then I don't and nothing's like, the world's not going to end if I don't do it. Like, it's really hard for me to stay like on task with something like that.
Yeah, I think like for me, it's a lot about like internal motivation is kind of like a silly concept because I think it still stems from external motivators. Like I think like we somehow have to find something on the outside that we can use to our advantage to kind of like, okay, the outside motivator for me waking up early is I don't want to get like a dirty look from my professor, who by the way actually emailed me and said, please don't come late to class again. I was 3 minutes late.
God.
What kind of professor?
I literally was 3 minutes late. Anyway,
you have a professor that cares that you're coming late?
I don't want to be disrespectful, so I actually book it to class now. Like but see, I find other ways too, and I don't know if it just fell in this way. I had access to 2 bikes. They're both out of commission right now because one pedal is loose and the other I flipped over and broke the gear shifter.
What?
But so now I walk to campus and I live about like 25 minutes walking, but I can make it in like 20 or under if I walk like really, really fast. And I just recently found that if like I do longer strides, I can make it even faster.
Because I'm not going to suggest leaving earlier.
Right. So like what I do is like my class is at 8:30. I'm like, I have to wake up at 7 to get there on time. Like with the way that everything like like
with the ripping the covers off and such.
But right, so like I rip my covers off, but I remember like for high school when we'd have to wake up at absurd times.
Oh my God.
Like 6 a.m.
I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous, and like
I don't know how we did that.
I don't either. I don't either.
And now I'm thinking about like I used to go to sleep at like midnight and wake up at 5:30.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right,
but
I was like, this is normal.
Time to
like
go.
This is totally fine.
I think too, like there were some external motivators there, like being late to high school. I feel like was a lot bigger of a deal.
Well, yeah.
Or like
we're gonna take away your diploma if you don't come. We're gonna
it's just like
credit denial and all that.
It was like it was
detention.
It was a different time in our lives, but I think if we like somehow like I had so many tricks. I even had a real alarm clock, like a real one. Not even kidding. I would wind it up. And then, like, it's so loud, and it's on the other side of my room. I literally would wake up in fear every morning. It works.
You wake up before the alarm clock because you're so scared of the alarm clock going off.
There's nothing. You want to talk about external, like a good sense of motivation? Fear.
Fear.
So it's like it's an external motivator, that loud noise, but I'm the one that employed it. So it's like, that's why I say internal motivation is kind of stupid. Like, kind of a weird concept. But, like, it's all about, like, manipulating, like, both, because you said fuck your motivation, but I feel like you're using motivation in like a good sense, like, oh, like, do I feel good about this, like, do I want to do this, but like, what about what you don't want to use? What about what you don't want to happen? And you use that to your advantage to kind of like push you, like somebody's like pushing you out of, I don't know, a room or something. It's like, I'm scared that, what was the example you used before, Ashley? You said,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I forgot. It was like something that you like. I'll just use a different example, like a project. You don't want, instead of I want an A, you might want to think about like, well, I don't want an F. That might help a little bit better. Or I don't want this grade or whatever. So it's like, and maybe this is not healthy. Maybe it's not, but it works. I promise you, it works.
To each their own.
Yeah, I'm curious. Why did you want to bring this topic to this? Because this is a really, it's a really general and broad topic, but it's also personal because everybody is on their own journey to be a better version of themselves. So why what was your motivation? What was your
internal motivation?
I think it was more like just realizing how difficult it is to do certain things, like getting up well, I just recently like stopped working at a job that I had to wake up super early for, and I'm like, okay, what's my motivation now to wake up early? And so like it's just kind of like, it's like you got like, one of my motivations is my desire to have a lot of time in the day, because I know like if I wake up past 10, I'll feel horrible.
I feel
like,
the same way. I feel like I wasted my day.
I feel like I've missed out on so much, and like I'd rather be tired early on in the day and then take a nap and like maybe even waste like an hour and a half on a nap or something. And that's like a long, like I'm so like maybe it's like unhealthily anxious about time, like how I use my time, but like literally my naps will be like 20 minutes because I know that I get that effect of like feeling rested with 20 minutes.
Jealous.
Well, like, yeah, well, my
nap.
mom is super like, she's very aware of like how we have like in like on her desk there's like an article snippet that says like the different types of naps and like how it'll make you feel. Like 30 minutes makes you groggy, 60 minutes is like you're feeling better but still kind of groggy, 90 minutes is the best because it's like a full cycle, but like 15 minutes is like emulating that full cycle. So I'll just do like 15 minutes, but I have to take into account, you know, the time it takes to sleep. So it's like it's very methodical, but in and of itself that's become a habit. So it's interesting that this topic turned into habit.
So Ashley, your topic has to do with this, with
the Sunshine State.
The Sunshine State, our home state.
Yes.
What do you have? A lot of points here, a lot of disparate points. We should like narrow down. Like, what about Florida did you want to talk about today?
I put all those points in more just to give more justification as to why I chose such a seemingly random and broad topic. But ultimately, I chose a topic of just like Florida and either why you love it or why you hate it, because I just think, mostly to give background, I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. And then my family recently, like last year, moved to Catalina Island off the coast of California. So last summer, I spent all summer on Catalina Island, and I'll be going back to this summer. And it's just it was so interesting to me to be from Florida in California because, one, everybody acted like I was just like an alien. They're like, you're from Florida? Oh my gosh. Like where? That's so far. And that plus everybody wanted me to say that California was better, and everybody wanted me to just shit on Florida, and they wanted me like, and I would, because I'm a server, I would be a waitress, so I'd be serving tables, and they'd find out from Florida like, oh, isn't California just so much better? And I just was like, no. And the shock and like horror on their faces that I couldn't agree with them that Florida sucked and that California was superior. It almost gave me like pride to know that like I was, because I don't know, I low-key have like grown up always feeling like I needed to be a contrarian and be like alternative and not in the mainstream in terms of like opinions. But this is a genuine one where I do think, one, Florida gets a pretty bad rep in terms of like how it's portrayed in like mainstream culture, like in like social, especially like the social media world, and like how Florida is like stereotyped. I think it doesn't show, it makes it too one note. And on the top of that, like I think a lot of people, even who are from Florida, don't realize how cool the state is in terms of there's so much going on. And like I'm from South Florida, and growing up there, a lot of times when we would vacation, we would only really go, my parents don't like cold weather, so we would only really do like cruises because they were coming out of Fort Lauderdale, or like random bigger vacations to see like family. But we really would never travel around Florida. And only when I came to UF and I was in Gainesville and I was not near a beach, I was like, what do I do? Like, what is around me? And coming to UF has really, and being in Gainesville, being in North Central Florida, has really exposed me to so much, like all the state has to offer, and like meeting all the different people from the different areas. Like I will stop talking about it eventually in my setup, but like each city in Florida and like each like major metropolitan area, it seems like has its own like personality. And when you meet people from that area, it's like, it makes sense. And it's just so, I haven't really been to a state or met and like seen something, especially a state in America to where that is as diverse and dynamic as Florida. And I would love to hear your opinions on this state, because it's a very diverse like state in terms of how people view it. I heard this phrase once, and I agree. It's that Florida is the Australia of America. And I think that's kind of the best phrase to put Florida under. And when you're thinking about Florida, like Florida doesn't really have, of course it has like an identity, you know, it has like, you know, like the oranges, the you know, like the Hispanic culture in the South, and then you know, just a bunch of, it has an identity outside of Florida, like in the rest of the country, but I feel like it's a lot harder to pin down.
Michael, what do you think?
You said, what was it that you said that reminded me of, like, I think of animals, like the animal life here in Florida. It's just like, geographically speaking, I don't know how different it is from, say, like if you go as far north as like Georgia or something.
It's pretty different.
But like there's, I grew up with like, and I know these are an invasive species, but like the Bahamian lizards, the anoles, or like Cuban tree frogs, things like that. Like I love
iguanas.
Yeah, iguanas.
There's so many
There's
iguanas.
So many. Those are invasive.
They're not good for the environment,
Nope.
but I love them. I love reptiles, and I'm like looking around, and I just asked today the lead copywriter Haley Burrows.
Shout out.
I saw a lizard or whatever, and I said, "Did you guys ever catch lizards like growing up?" Because I know some people would do that. And she's like, no, because she lived in Virginia, and it's just like really made me think like, wow,
There are no lizards in Virginia, bro?
well, I'm probably not as many. And I was also speaking to another. I apologize. Her position evades me. I think she's a assistant producer, Emma Suttle.
Yes.
She
Also, comms creative lead.
yes. Cannot deprive her of that second role. She's doing a great job. But Emma Suttle is from Arizona, and we were just talking about how like there's like tarantulas, like where she lives. And I remember going to Arizona and like thinking about that. So of course, like every state has their own. America's huge and like vastly different depending on
where you go
geographically speaking. But Florida's pretty distinct, in that sense. Like I was thinking like Louisiana also has alligators, but it doesn't have like beaches, it has like the swamp.
Did you know that apparently Florida is the only place in the world that alligators and crocodiles coexist like peacefully, like in Southland, like Florida and Everglades and stuff?
Wow.
It's the only place in the world
They
that
teamed up.
Because you'll never find alligators and crocodiles in the same area of the world except Florida, which is funny. Gators, because like one, we go to UF, so obviously there are just a weird amount of gators just in Gainesville and like on campus even, or like on the trails. But most of the time, if you're not in like Gainesville or like in the swamps or like South Florida, they're not that all over the place.
I never see a gator besides here, which is crazy.
You didn't see them in South Florida?
No.
I saw them all the time.
Well, I've heard of like, obviously, I'm not going to say I've never seen one, but like when
But it wasn't like an issue?
it was always an illusion, like illusion, not illusion. Like I see these signs that are like, careful.
Like you knew they existed, but you didn't see them.
There are snakes and alligators here. Like, do not have your children around. And I'm like, whoa, and I think I hear them too. Like, because I live in a suburb of, I don't want to say like of Fort Lauderdale, although like my parents.
You live in Broward?
Yeah, I live in Broward County. I live in Pembroke Pines, and
Pembroke Pines.
these little man-made lakes everywhere. And I hear at night, I'll take like a walk at night or whatever, and I hear like this, like that sound, and like I never know what it is exactly, but I think it's the gators, just making a lot of sounds, and
they do
there.
make like a groan. Type things?
They make like
guttural sounds.
Yeah,
announcing their presence.
But it's not just the gators that like I've never like, I know that's like the big joke. Everybody talks about gators like outside of Florida, and like there's like,
which is hilarious
crazy.
To me.
Yeah, because like I don't think of that when I think of Florida. I think of like lizards, and I think of those snakes. I'm thinking of the water moccasins.
The red and black friend of Jack White. I had explained that. I had explained that to someone from Massachusetts the other day. I was like, you don't know this survival tip?
Well, like Florida apparently, I don't know if it has the most, but I think it has like 11 out of all of the venomous snakes in the world. It's like crazy. Like I know there's like the black runner or something. There's like rattlesnakes. There's water moccasins.
They gave a legless animal the name Black Runner. Like, we're just making
fast. They're
fast. Really rubbing it in their face.
I don't know if it's like runner or chaser. I don't know.
Either way.
They're like, and that's like interesting that's the sort of thing we like deal with. But like I love it. Like I grew up, loving the climate. I love the humidity. I love. I don't love beaches. I will say, like. I've grown to like enjoy parts of it, but I just like, oh my god.
What about the beach does not?
I don't hate it, but like it's
like heaven.
Growing up, like
it's literally heaven.
Well, I always wanted to like go in the water and stuff, and then I'd have to deal with like the sand in like my body for hours, you know.
Just shower. We grew up. I can guarantee we went to the same beaches growing up.
Well, like,
and there's showers there. You just quickly.
But it's not that quick. It like sticks.
But like you,
and I was a messy kid.
You don't feel like when you came to UF, like even though apparently I've read this fun fact that you're never more than 60 miles from a beach in Florida. And UF somehow, University of Florida decided to pick the most like central place in the state that you can be from the beach. And I remember coming here, and like I said, I didn't know a lot about Florida because like all I would do like growing up is like on the weekends go to the beach. Like that, like the beach is what I did with my free time. Like that's just how I associated. So like I love being outdoors, and coming up to Gainesville, especially like freshman, sophomore year, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, I want to be outside, but I don't know what to do. And like it would, this like yearning to like submerge myself underwater just like started to exist. And now like whenever I go to the beach, I like can't even keep myself out of the water. Like I have to go in the water. I have to like dunk my head underwater because like there's nothing like the beach. I mean, yeah, there's the springs, and I've only recently been able to like go into how cold that water is. But like prior to that, I like there's nothing like there's just the beach is just so, especially it's so weird to think someone who grew up near the beach could be like I'm not sand.
I
like,
know
it's
I was
just sand.
I gotta say I agree with Michael.
No!
Like,
I'm telling you, there's quite a few people from Florida who just, I think it's one of those things that I don't know if it's like you take it for granted or just like
You definitely do.
Like, well, like
maybe it's not that, but
some people from Orlando like hate Disney, you know, and there's more obvious reasons for that.
But like when you're going everywhere and you see the mouse, growing up with the mouse around you,
I could see
it's just like I don't know. The thing is, like, for the beach, like, I don't like how many people can be in one spot. Like,
we gotta find the spots.
When it's empty, like, I'll tell you, like, I went for like over quarantine. There was a moment we went to Hollywood Beach, and you know, it's like a quick 25-minute drive down just one street. You go straight out east from where I live.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know the beach.
Well, Anthony doesn't.
I don't know the beach. And other people, you know, there's other people listening to
Hollywood
this.
Beach. It's just south of Fort Lauderdale Beach in Broward County.
Right. So it's like, you know, just a little area, and there's like, you could literally walk to Dania Beach, kind of, which is what we did. You know, it must have been like, I don't know, 2 miles or something. We just walked, and it was like evening time, and it's like really, really nice. But that's with my shoes on, not getting the sand anywhere but like in my shoes, and I can just pour it out.
But see, I would take this like when I go on sand, shoes off. Like I can't walk with any type of shoe on sand. Like shoes off. Never wear sneakers. Like who? It's like you just don't do it.
I see tourists wearing sneakers on the beach.
Oh God.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, I am a tourist of Florida. Like I literally don't know enough about Florida. Like I just recently went.
Some state pride, bro.
I have state pride. I've always liked Florida.
This goes back to the conversation that we were having on the last episode about the regional brands and stuff with Il Primo's, right? Have you ever heard of Il Primo's Pizza and Wings, by the way?
No.
She's not from Naples.
I don't care, man. Maybe she's been through there. Il Primo is like this pizza chain that's only in Naples and Fort Myers. Like,
I can't believe I haven't heard of that because I have been going to Naples my entire life. But we only eat at Cece's Pizza in Boston Market.
What?
My grandparents are Midwesterner creatures of habit. So
do you
But I will make sure to go to El Primo next time I visit my grandparents.
Dude, yeah, especially if you're going to Cece's, like this. Do you know the street names in Naples?
I only know like Fifth Ave.
That's okay.
That's the big one.
So if you were going to Cece's, you were pretty darn close to an El Primo's, like relatively, because everything's
we
so
drove
far.
pretty far. I don't know why my grandparents like love Cece's, or maybe it's that I loved it so much when I was little that we just kept going my entire life. But I remember it not being close. Like we drove a good 20-30 minutes to go to this.
Oh my God.
That was everything's far in Naples.
Yeah.
Dude. Nothing is close. Nothing is close. One of the biggest adjustments that I've had to make coming to college is knowing that within 5 minutes I have everything available to me, whereas
literally
my house in Naples is like the amount of time that it takes me to get to the CVS where I work is the amount of time that it takes me to get to my high school, and then to get to any sort of store, it's like 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes to get
like
anywhere.
Orlando. That gives me similar vibes to Orlando.
Yeah.
But El Primo, yes, continue.
Yeah, so there's sources of like pride that, like, you know, El Primo that's where I grew up, so I'm really proud of that place here. And then Florida in general, whenever I hear somebody, you know, like not talking right about Florida, or saying something that's
Not talking right about
it, or saying something that's just not true, just not accurate, then I'm like, I want to set them down, but I can't really blame them, because we're the only state that has a whole like genre of news dedicated to us.
Oh yeah,
the Florida man. There's like, you never hear like
that is the number one thing people would say to me in California. Like when I would be like, oh yeah, I'm from Florida, they go, oh, Florida man, like that. Like they can't help themselves from being like Florida man, like as if I'd never heard of it. Like, hey, have you heard of this hilarious thing? If you type in Florida man and your birthday, I'm like, yeah. We all know about it. Like, okay.
That's really interesting, because like I've always been that person for other people. Like I'm probably very annoying to like out-of-stater gators who like come here, because
out-of-stater gators.
I just love it. Like I love to hear about other. I don't travel enough, so I hear, you know, like Emma Suttle's like, oh yeah, I'm from Arizona. I'm like, yo, tell me everything about Arizona. But like, you know, I've never been in that situation. I probably would like it at first, but that probably would like annoy me. Like, it's the same vibe that I got like when I told people like what high school I went to, and like other people, like when I go to like guitar school, or not guitar school, but like there's like music school. I learned how to play guitar for a few years in my life, like throughout high school and stuff. And like everybody was from another like high school, and they're like, oh, you go to that school? It's not like...
I feel that. I went to a big football high school, and anytime I hear, I'm like, oh, I went to this one. And they're like, oh my God, you went to that place? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I didn't play football, so I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I wasn't, like, I'm sorry that you know this place from football, but like, I'm just exhausted. Like, yes, it's the football one. Move on.
Yeah. It's a little bit different for me, because there's a lot of people that come from that side of the state, just because it's so big. I mean, that southeast Florida...
You mean South Florida?
Yeah, you mean... Sorry, yeah. Please clarify.
SoFlo?
SoFlo, correct?
Which I hate saying, by the way.
SoFlo.
Southeast Florida is huge, is massive. So a lot of people, like, you know, there's... I mean, you two, you guys grew up around, like, generally the same area, like the same metro...
Quantum energy's probably, like, shifted and touched.
At some point. We might have been in the same zip code at one point.
Wow, yeah.
There's barely anybody here that I can talk about the 239 with.
The 239.
You know, I mean...
Not like Angel Silva.
Well, Angel, though. Angel, great videographer over here behind the camera. Angel. I could talk to her about the 239.
Yeah.
But she's like one in a million. Like, I can't... There's nobody else coming from Naples or Fort Myers that I can... relate to. Maybe somebody will.
But you know what's so cool about like that is that like within Florida, there's so many little nuances to each like major area. Like people that like Jacksonville, to me, Jacksonville versus South Florida versus Orlando versus Tampa, and we'll throw in Naples because you're from there.
Shout out.
If those were all brands, they would be completely different from each other, in my opinion. Like, yes, they all are in the same, you know, like, we're all Florida, but each, like, the people from those places that I've met here, especially, like, being at UF, where, like, you get a very good representation of each area in Florida. And then once you throw in the people from the small towns in Florida, you really just open yourself up to a whole new world of, like, because
I didn't know what Bradenton was.
That's not even that small, though.
Yeah, that's kind of near.
I'm talking about like these towns around Gainesville, or like if you go in between like Gainesville and Ocala, like these places.
Newberry, shout out all my Newberry friends.
Newberry, Micanopy, like all those places, like it's a different way of life. Like it's almost like it's so cool, though.
It's completely differed.
Like going to
the edges.
I recently went to Cedar Key for the first time, and we were talking about that earlier, like how that's like probably the nearest beach. And we went for like an art festival, and like it was you know popping. It was popping a little bit, but that's because it was an art festival. You know, like they have a thing where people, you know, can come and enjoy this small city, but it's an 800. But the population size is 800, like permanent residents. So it's like, damn. It's kind of crazy. And you see a library and you see a bank, and you're like, damn, that's the one that they all go to.
Yeah, that's it.
We're walking in the parking lot by the like the docks or whatever where people are fishing, and people are just like driving by, and people are walking like the residents, and they're talking to each other. Like they didn't like come together. Like they just know each other. Like I probably knew, probably not like all, but like I knew a good amount of like my class in high school, which was like, I don't know if it's like big for you guys, but like I had like a 750 class.
Mine was like 500.
That's a big class. Mine was around 500, like
Yes.
in between.
So like imagine that, but like that's your whole
Town.
That's your whole town.
That's your whole town.
And it's like that's made up of probably mostly like middle-aged people and like, but imagine like I am thinking like imagine you grew up there.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of crazy, and it's like it's good to talk to people like that because I don't know, but I don't know if that's like a uniquely Florida thing.
No, it's not uniquely Florida, but I think what's cool about Florida is that like my mom's from a small town in Illinois, and so like I've gone there.
Chicago.
No, yeah, it's a little tiny town in Illinois if you haven't heard of it. No, but it's like 3 hours south of Chicago. Like it is not. It's small, and going there, like, because a lot of people from the Midwest, they move down to Florida because they like the weather, but a lot of times they don't necessarily want, you know, the big city. So these, like, the smaller towns in Florida really appeal.
Naples.
Like, but even Naples could be big city living to some of these people.
It's getting bigger.
Like if you've ever been to a
big city living.
if you actually ever go to a real small town, it is like the culture. I thought I would have hated the idea of everybody knowing you, and then like. So my family moved to Catalina Island, and that only has 4,000 people that live on there. But like it seems a lot smaller because everybody you work with is also who you live near, and you don't really leave the island. So I've definitely, this is my first time really feeling like I'm in like a small town life. Like everybody, you go to the grocery store and like everybody knows you, or like you can't go out without possibly running into somebody you know, and like it's things like that. But it's
like
also, yeah, but like smaller. But ultimately,
much smaller. UF's population is much greater.
But UF feels really small, though. UF could feel really small.
Well, because you got to take into account like how many people, like when I go back to routines and like habits, like a lot of these kids are doing the same thing every day. I notice like I see the same people. I don't even know them.
I always forget this. I just feel like I never.
I see the same people all the time, and I know their face. You know, back when I was a freshman and I had a meal plan, like I would see these people every single day, you know, but I wouldn't, you know, introduce myself. I was very nervous, obviously, and like I still see them, and I'm like, I don't know their names.
But if you were to go out of your way to like put yourself in a situation in Gainesville specifically that you normally wouldn't, you would get out of your habit, your routines, and like go into that, you'd probably meet a completely different group. At least that's how it happens to me. Like if I take myself out of my normal, you know, social scene in Gainesville and I go do something random, I will expose myself to such a different group of people that I just didn't know existed in. Oh yeah. Let alone that's true. Like in Gainesville, but even just like like I don't know. I know I talk about like Florida like as if it's just this like theme park of just interesting people and things, but it like there's so much. I feel like I can learn so much about without having to leave the state. I feel like I can learn a lot about different people and cultures and like that and backgrounds just through like getting to know the people that inhabit this. Like
I think like the thing to take away from this conversation is that if you think you know a place based on the headlines you've read about it or the things that you hear on social media or the news or whatever, that you don't. You don't, because
have to live somewhere.
Yeah, like you have to like seek out different sources of information, like read out different things about a place, because no place is ever going to be perfectly encapsulated by any piece of content online, you know? And if you want to find out about other people in other places, well then, you know, connect with people on social media. Michael, do you have social media that you want to connect with people?
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter on the same @ which is Michael MICHAEL _ Alex W21. If you want to see what I create, it is not genuine. It's just off the top of my head. That one was on purpose. Sorry.
Ashley, do you have any social media that you want to connect with people with? You don't have to.
I don't.
Maybe you're BeReal.
Follow the agency at UF.
Yes.
But I don't have any personal. I would prefer to keep my personal.
Of course.
But follow the agency's Instagram and X and socials of the like.
You can find the agency on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. The agency at UF. Those are our handles for all of our major sites. Same with LinkedIn. LinkedIn as well. Connect with us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Yes. And remember that you can find this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Episodes go up every other Friday. Video version on YouTube. Please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us here. That's what keeps the mics and the lights on around here as we continue forward in this chapter of our lives, which is the Off the Top show. You can also go to our website, theagency.jou.ufl.edu for more formal information about the agency.
Yes.
our previous work, case studies, etc., etc. Guys, how do you guys feel about this?
Feel good. I feel like I have a better understanding of a podcast now. I didn't have much of an understanding except for the Always Sunny in Philadelphia podcast. That was the only exposure I've ever had to podcasts. So this was fun.
Nice. Well,
I don't know if I did it right, but I had fun.
You did it. You did it in your own way.
I love that.
You did
it was a great,
you spiced it up.
Ambiguous answer.
You sent ripples through the timelines. So.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Are you also graduating, Ashley?
No, well, I'm a grad student. So I graduated in May, but I don't graduate my grad program until May of 2023.
Gotcha.
So a whole more year.
So you're still here. Michael is on his way out, though. You can still come back as an alum. As an alum.
Special guest star.
Yeah, no, I would be a special guest star. I walk in and I expect like the laugh track to immediately start. Not laugh track, the clap track.
Of course.
Whatever you call it.
Like the gasps, like
and I just like look around smiling, waiting for everyone to like calm down. Actually, what's probably gonna happen is I walk in and everybody's different and I'm like, oh, hey guys.
Well, we look forward to having you back in the future, Michael. Thank you so much. Everybody at home, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, see ya.
Bye, guys.